Before I begin reading the Ray's reading, I realize there's a little point of protocol here that's perhaps a little different in America than in India. In India, we would never have a distinguished guest like Nayaswami Aditya without giving a proper introduction. And so I'm going to give my little attempt at a proper introduction here and say that we're not just having a distinguished person of Ananda India. He is in fact that. He is one of the people in charge of Ananda India in these days and going into the future. But we're also, and I want to help us appreciate this. We are not just meeting a person today. This is his first time here speaking in our temple. But we're meeting India itself, and that's not to put any pressure on Aditya, even though we are putting pressure on Aditya, because we love to. We love Aditya. The first time Nirmala and I met Aditya was in Delhi in, what was it, 2008? November 2008, Swamiji was launching a book in front of many hundreds of people, and Aditya approached us afterwards, and we only found out last night that there was a whole story prior to this where he had written and not received a response. We think the letter got lost or misplaced somehow because we never knew about it, which, not that we knew all the letters Swami got, there were thousands, but anyway, there was a backstory to it. But when he approached us after this talk, hoping to have a moment with Swamiji, there was a queue of people lined up to see Swamiji. I mean, everybody wanted a piece of him. And Swamiji had just returned from overseas and was very tired, and the event was wonderful and powerful, but his health was really struggling at that point. And it was not a good moment for Aditya to meet Swamiji right then. But he approached us to see about how to arrange that, and there was a very intense look on his face, let's just say. Very, very intense, which can be a little intimidating, actually, because you're not sure, what are we dealing with here? But there was a blessing, and that blessing has continued to grow over these years now, almost 15 years, and it's just a great joy and privilege to have him here with us today. So I'd like us to just welcome him, and let's just stand, and by way of honoring that, let's just chant Om for him 3 times. And when we chant Om for him, we're not just chanting Om for him personally, but we're also chanting Om for all the work, the thousands and millions who benefit from it in India. Feel that blessing passing through him on to all of them. Let's just rub our hands together and we'll chant Om 3 times. Rays of the One Light. These are parallel commentaries on the Bible and Bhagavad Gita, written by Swami Kriyananda. This week's topic is How Democratic is Truth? And I don't think it's a big spoiler alert to tell you not very, but I'll let Aditya explain that more completely. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. We live in an age when people assume that knowledge should be available equally to all. In matters susceptible of judgment by normal common sense, however, Everyone knows there are exceptions. Access to a control room for intercontinental missiles is limited by universal consent to a very few. Access to the controls of a passenger airliner is limited to those with the necessary knowledge for operating them, and also to those with the proper authorization. If people don't see the disadvantages of making more subtle knowledge universally available, it is only because they are ignorant of the risks involved. In the case of subtle knowledge, the main disadvantage in making it universally available is the harm it might do to one who isn't ready for it, and who might even mock it. True, by mocking truth he might undermine the faith of a few truth seekers, but then such tests can also be beneficial as a means of strengthening faith. Again true, the clever doubter's misrepresentation of those truths may dissuade a few seekers from following the spiritual path. But if a seeker is really sincere, he will recognize the truth eventually because it resonates with his own being. No, the greatest problem accrues to the shallow doubter himself. To give him an opportunity to affirm his ignorance might only estrange him even more from the truth, delaying the time when he will turn, as all people must eventually, to the light. Thus the scriptures advise not secrecy, but discretion in the sharing of truth. Jesus Christ says in the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 7, "Give not that which is holy unto dogs, nor cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet, and turn again and rend you." And Sri Krishna says in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, "Never speak of these truths to one who is without self-control or devotion, who renders no service, who does not care to hear, or who speaks ill of me." Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om. Can you bring that table? Yeah.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Namaste. Thank you, Dharmdas ji. So much to thank you and Nirmala ji for. And I will do that. I know I have limited time. I had forgotten to wear my wristwatch when I was coming to the temple. I went back home. I particularly need a wristwatch when I'm talking. And maybe the kind that buzzes to let you know now is the time to stop. So even though I have limited time, I will share because this is my first time here. And while you were meditating for a moment, I opened my eyes and I took my time to see everyone over here. Because Master said, he interestingly about himself said a very interesting statement. He said, no one's path has crossed mine without a reason. And to some degree, it is true for each one of us, And I'll tell you some stories, including one that happened just yesterday. And nothing is random. Everything, there's magnetism at play. So I was like, I've come to the Sacramento family, my Sacramento family. Let me see my brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers. And so I just took a moment. And sure enough, outwardly, Swami said, look, what a beautiful thing God has done. Everyone is different. Inwardly, however, there is that same sweetness. You can see the joy, the fruits that we have received on this path. So I feel that way. And like Dharmdas ji said, it's been 15 years now on the path. And just for my brief visit now, why am I here? Well, this is my 5th visit to the US. I mentioned at SRW that over the years I was confusing. Sacramento I had been to before. This is my first time having now satsang with you all. But I had never been to Seattle and Portland, and I would mix up those two places with the center leaders. And no information would come from them because I had mixed up their centers. I would ask, especially Padma and Raymond, how is Portland doing? And like, well, it's doing fine as far as we know. But by the way, and this happened a few times, so I said, I would tell them that I haven't seen the country, that part of it, and once I come, I will not mix it up. But at SRW, I did mix it up even after that. But that was a slip of tongue. But so anyway, this time I took a direct flight from India to Seattle, and then of course Portland. And like I said, there's family everywhere. I met friends over there, Guru Bhais in Portland, Surendraji, like Dharamdas and Nirmalaji had served with Tushti in India, in Pune. I had been with them for some years. And then when I was coming back, I came in through Chico because I enjoy taking the train in the US. In the train, I often take a book. The first time I did a east to west coast train in 2019, I took a book called The Great America, which has a state-by-state description of this beautiful country. And so I was reading and peeping out of the window and then talking to people and just getting to know not only Ananda in America, but what is America itself about, because Master came here, Swami was from here, and our work is of East and West. So I was trying to just understand, and has been a very thrilling journey each time. So then I came in through Chico, and we have our friends from Chico over here today. And finally, there was SRW that I participated in. But the main thing I had really come for was living discipleship. It's as you know, it's a 3.5-week program. And Alan, my adjacent partner, he was in Mankalo 1, I was in 2. Just till a few days ago, we were for 4 weeks together in the meditation retreat going through the living discipleship program, and I was coordinating that. So it was a deep, deep blessing, as you can imagine. I've just had so much satsang, but there's never enough of satsang or learning, and so that continues. But I want to share just for a moment about Nirmala ji, Dharamdas ji, because when I came in 2008, it was very intentional. I think it's very intentional. You can't, you just don't float into Ananda. You may float somehow still, but if you have to stay here, Swami called it an intentional, cooperative, spiritual community. So it was very intentional. I had told my parents what I'm seeking in life, why I'm going, where I'm going. And I found another set of parents in Dharamdas and Nirmala ji. I remember a few years after coming also, it was my birthday one morning. And, birthday in Ananda is all about giving and joyfully giving to others, serving others. I was about that day, but I was going down, about to start my day in the rural clinic I had. And I thought, if this was my birthday at home, I would take a blessing from my parents. They would greet me. In the monastery, it can be quite, not cold, but it's impersonal. Oh, it's your birthday, happy birthday. There's no cake around sometimes. So I thought, I'm okay that way. But I said, no, I want to be blessed. And so I changed my walking route. I went to the Dharamdas Nirmalaji's house. I knocked on their door. I said, it's my birthday. It's my birthday. I want your blessing. And it was a morning I very, very clearly remember. They blessed me. And every moment with them was blessed. Every week was blessed. We all found parents in them. We would get chocolate chip cookies, which I think now many of you must be enjoying through Nirmalaji. A lot of loving guidance, direction. When you're young on the spiritual path, you need that. Dharamdas ji gave us that very much. I remember many monastic satsangs with him. One particular I'll share that has stayed with me, that he said, life has a way of teaching you things. Master said life is based on duality. You go too much this way, it brings you that way, and it brings us to that equilibrium, equanimity inside. And he said, marriage gives you that opportunity also. But he said, I'm talking to monks now. He said, you are 5, 6, I think you are 5, 6 of us in the room over there in that monastery temple we had. And he said, you will have to do that balancing for yourself. You will have to learn from life, learn from others, and most importantly, within each person. We are neither man or woman, you may say. It's the soul ultimately, which is often, Master said, sometimes you're born as a woman, as a man, to learn different lessons. And I remember that was such a beautiful explanation. Dharmdas ji has a way with words. He's able to communicate, clarify certain concepts, which we are all aspiring for, but that particular teaching has stayed with me, that okay, where do I need the balance? Do I need the feminine side more? Do I need the masculine side inside of me? And so the journey has been very, very sweet, very supportive, in a silent way. We, of course, always felt we are very much under their protection and guidance and blessings. Just give me a moment. I'm not used to this mic, but I'll keep playing with it, I think. Now, what happened yesterday? I was saying I learned something yesterday. A very beautiful thing happened. I have a friend in Stockton, then another one in Dublin. They are doctors. I'm from a medical background myself in India. We've all together, and now they are settled over here. They got family, children. So when they knew I'm coming to Sacramento, they said, please come to Stockton for a day, and I did. But one of my friends, he had planned a whole surprise, and he said, we are going rafting in the which I had never done before. And he said, we are going rafting in the American River. So I said, okay, you have planned the day, I'm game, let's go. So we're driving from there through Sacramento, and I was telling him, after the rafting, you have to drop me at Ananda, Sacramento. And as we are approaching, Rancho Cordova comes, and I said, oh, our community is nearby, I recognize this neighborhood. So he's like, okay. And then we come further, and I recognize this school on the bend. And I saw the grounds. I said, this has to be the school. I said, our community is opposite this school. And sure enough, it was there. I saw the Ananda sign. And so just a few minutes from here is one of the places at the American River where they launch you into the boats. So 3 of us got a boat, made this little pilgrimage, you might say, from where we booked the boat and carried the boat, and it was feeling really like the Kumbh Mela or some sort of a Himalayan little, procession, because everybody was going, and there was dust in the air, children were there, families, literally 500-600 people at the least. Yesterday was totally packed. So we're all going quietly. Everybody's very joyful about what's about to come. There's that feeling. And then we get into the boat. Now, just 2 steps before we got into the river, I stopped and I asked my friend, I said, joy and all is fine, but are there any instructions about this thing? I said, no one's talking about it. Everyone looks happy. Children are going, but I've never done this before. So he said, yeah, they sent me a YouTube video. I said, I haven't seen it. So he said, oh, it's very simple. And we took just 2 paddles between 3 of us. So he said, don't worry, I've seen the video. I'll guide you. Put on your life jacket. And he said, Aditya, you stay in the front with this paddle, little bit on the leftish, and this other guy will be on the right, and let's launch. So we launched. And I started paddling. And my friend, the other person, had never rafted. The only guy who had done rafting had seen the video but did not have the paddles. So we get into the river where many people are launching. And we started paddling. And our boat started going in circles. Right there. And my friend is like, to the left, to the right, you to the right, he to the left. And we were just mixing it all up and laughing. We just broke into a laugh. And I was like, are we ever going to move? Like after 4 rounds. And because he would say, you stop, you start. And we would start in the wrong direction. All the permutation and combinations were against us. And so finally we somewhat moved, and I realized, I said, let's get into that current, so we start going down. But there's a deep lesson over here, and I'll tell you, when the journey finished, I was reflecting on it in the night. It was totally what goes on in the spine. You enter the spine, the intention is there, you want to put energy, but Swami says there's a vortex going on, subconsciously many times. This was not planned, maybe Divine Mother had planned this, but you're wanting to get into the river. You're seeing others are moving forward. You want to move forward. And like Swami used to say, once this bus got stuck in the mud, and people like, let's get it out, and they're pushing, and it's not moving. And he said half of them were pushing from this side, the other half from the other side. And the driver said, guys, let's get on, let's put our energy in one direction. And Kriyananda ji said, it's very easy to see that two guys are paddling in two directions. But he said, when it's you, when you are the only person, in my case, let's say, if you're not married or if you're married, Swami said, ultimately in each of us, there is that masculine, feminine side. There is that, those citizens, he said, the citizens which want to move towards God, but then he says the energy is also deeply over past incarnations committed to the other side. So anyway, we overcame that initial vortex, off we went, and we're going, and we had this little map, and the map is small, but the journey was like 7 miles or something. And we thought, oh yeah, this bend must be that thing. And then where is this tower? And somebody said, oh, the tower is a landmark, but it must have fallen. This must have been an old map. Well, at the very end, when we kind of started getting tired, this tower shows up, which is halfway point. So it's like, when you've been given a map, you have not done the journey, you trust the map. These guys must be knowing. So we can have this presumption about the path. And in the beginning we do that. Oh, like somebody said to Swamiji, I've been meditating for 3 months and I haven't had samadhi. And Swami said, well, it's okay, but just keep trying. And so Master makes it seem so easy. And on one level, especially if we've practiced it, we know on one level it is easy. But it is we who decide how much. Master has given us the boat. He's given us the strength. Everybody gets the same boat. But what are you going to make of it? How fast, how slow will you go? Another very fun activity that happened was, we barely got in the middle, and there was a group of 200 people. That was one group booking. They were in no mood of rowing. Just after they got into the water, they pulled out their water guns, which there were like 100 of them. There were kids and buckets and whatnot. And nobody was spared. We were not spared. We three were dry, and they couldn't stand us. They were like, how are these guys dry? And we were getting this water cannons from every side. And it was fun. Little bit, the water was quite cold. But for a while I thought that, weren't we here for rowing? I mean, everybody's put their efforts aside, you might say. And we get totally involved. We think this is the reality. We forget we are in the middle of a river. There's a home to go back to. There's a destination. There is something about enjoying the journey. This is just the beginning. But like I said, in the evening when I was reflecting, I said, and it was fun, like I said. I'm not judging the water cannons. It was fun. But there's a limit to it. We actually then started saying, how does this water which has entered our boat now, is there a way to get it out? And so we had a tiffin and we were throwing the water out of that. And then another very fun thing happens if you go to this particular stretch, because my friend had gone to another one. The map shows at one point that there are 2 islands. And they say that water is deepest in the middle, and the rapids are more on left and right, and you can choose what you prefer. Every direction till that time, we were able to make that decision. Let's go here, let's catch that big wave, let's go over this rapid. But I remember for that one, I was saying, because my friend was rowing, I said, no, let's go to the left side. The rapids are we'll have more of a fun ride. We weren't able to. The currents took us towards the middle. And I later thought, I said, Divine Mother was telling me, aren't you done with these ups and downs? Let's go into the Ida, the left side. And Divine Mother was saying, stay in the Sushumna now. The ride is about to get over. Just stay in the middle where the waters are deep. And then, of course, by the end of it, like I said, that tower came, and I said, this is getting too much. We thought we are at the end of it. This is just halfway through. So somehow, then I took charge. Actually, if you've seen how boats in Kashmir in the Dal Lake are rowed, this guy sits right at the very back or sometimes in the front, and he does one left, one right. And I said, I'm taking charge of this. I have to reach Ananda Sacramento by a certain time. So I went for it. I just started singing, lift your heart in strength once more. Soon your boat will come ashore. And I just very happily sang that and hummed it, and we reached ashore, surrendered the boat, thanked Divine Mother. But like I said, these lessons came later. So I take that deep life lesson from the American River, and I wanted to share it with you all. Now, quickly coming to the subject, you can see why I brought my wristwatch. Swamiji once was doing the Jewel in the Lotus in 2012 in Christmas. Devaki, you were there. Devaki had come and is coming this year too. And Swami said, I want Aditya to play the storyteller. And that was, of course, very, very sweet for me. But in time, I realized why he wanted me to play the storyteller. Stories. They are a fun way to get your message across. Now, of course, maybe there is somebody over here who is new. Perhaps online somebody is, or somebody in time will see it. And that was a very deep message, how democratic is truth. We are meeting new people. I was yesterday with wonderful friends. Some of them know about Master. Actually, it was very interesting. My second friend who had come from Dublin, his mother was there. We went out she had come from India. She's now becoming a citizen of US. And I just thought she was so, there was something about her aura, as we say, like we see each other and we recognize there's something over there. And so I knew they're from Dehradun, the Himalayan town. And she's a doctor. She's been a wonderful, serviceful doctor. But Dehradun is also where Anand Moima spent a lot of time. Knowing Auntie's age and knowing that connection, I thought at the right time I'll bring it up. So I took a book of the Crystal Hermitage, the coffee table book of pictures by Barbara Bingham as a gift for her. And I gave it to her day before yesterday. And yesterday she said, oh, I read that book. And there are some beautiful quotes by Swamiji in there. I enjoyed it very much. And she started talking about Swamiji, about Master, and about some yogis in the Himalayas. And then I thought, now is the time. So I said, Auntie, in Dehradun, I have met some yogis, some disciples of Yogananda ji. But there was also this very great lady saint, Anandamayi Ma. Have you heard about her? And she said, oh yes, I met her. She had come to my brother's hospital inauguration. She inaugurated my brother's hospital. And right there in this dinner place, we were having dinner, I said, isn't that magical? That you know somebody, you meet somebody for the first time, but you know there is something that is common between you and me. And then her face lit up because I think nobody had asked her that question in a long time. And she said, oh, she was so beautiful. For me, the most important thing was that my brother's place is getting inaugurated. It was the first cardiology unit decades ago in that place. And she said, but the moment Ma came, it became all about her, her joy, she was beautiful. She was radiating. I still remember. And I didn't take the conversation further, but because we were all on the table. But I just thought, isn't that beautiful? So at the right time, Swamiji said we say the right things, or that is how we share, because if you give it too much ahead of time, I recently heard a devotee, and she's a wonderful friend, so in the right time, I'll bring this up with her. But what had happened was, she had asked a question, and one of our very wonderful teachers gave a beautiful answer to that. And the devotee said, yeah, I've heard that one before. And I thought, that wasn't, maybe she said it very a little casually, she didn't mean it perhaps, but she said, it's like I wanted something else, some other answer, something else that will really work now. But what will work now is that answer you got. But then you say, oh, I've heard that one before. So I wanted to share this satsang little bit, yes, for new people. There is always, you might say, the right teaching for the right time and the right person. But when I was preparing for this talk, I asked myself, Aditya, you have received the teaching, the subtle truth. You have received the subtle, deep technique of Kriya Yoga. You have received the blessing of the Guru, of meeting Swamiji, being involved, because as we get involved, Master said, you get more in tune, serve my work. To be in tune with me, serve my work. So I counted all those blessings. But I said, have you perhaps somewhere developed some indifference? Or like I said, my dear friend said, oh, I've heard that one before. I said, have you developed that attitude, Aditya? That, oh, I've heard that teaching before. I've heard that verse before. I know what it means. Do you? Do I? Sri Yukteswarji, when somebody asked him, Dabdu Ballabh it was, the great yogi, he asked him, my child, have you read the Bhagavad Gita? Do you know the Bhagavad Gita? Sri Yukteswarji said, sir, I have read it. I cannot claim to know it. I have read it. And speaking of the greatest Pandava, the oldest Pandava, Yudhishthir, the oldest brother of the 5 Pandavas, in the beginning of their training, they were given a verse. Remember this verse from the Bhagavad Gita. Some scripture. The Gita had not yet come at that time. And next day, what was the verse? And one by one, all the Kauravas and Pandavas got up and they narrated the verse to Dronacharya. But Yudhishthir, he said, sorry, I couldn't, I don't know it. They said, okay, prepare tomorrow. Next day comes, sorry, I don't know it. 3 days. The 4th day, the Guru is like, it's just one verse. How can you, what are you doing all day? All the others are knowing we have to move ahead. You're holding everybody back. And Yudhishthira says, sir, I know the words, but I haven't understood it. I haven't experienced it. So you see, that is the beauty, that there is a sublime, subtle truth. And Krishna is saying, to whatever degree there is an openness, whatever would be helpful, share that. Otherwise, the hurt comes, of course, most of all to the person who says, oh, I know it, I've heard this one before, or I don't believe in this because it is not my present reality. I'm not hungry for this. Why is this being offered to me? And Anand Mohima, once a yogi, one of her disciples, he very proudly said to her, oh mother, this person, remember who came? I told him to stop. Maybe it was drinking or something like that. And she said, and what did you suggest? He said, oh, I just suggested he stop drinking. And he said, he'll try. And she said, you shouldn't have done that. That was the only thing that was giving him joy. And you took that away. And she was genuinely concerned that in the end, suppression, unless it's really a conversion, does not lead to any result. And she said, you should have, go back, find him, and suggest something which he will accept in place of what you've told him not to do. So I want to just briefly focus on those 5 points that Dharamdas ji read in from the lines of Krishna, that how do we, because in this life also, Krishna reincarnated as Mahavatar Baba. Is a spectrum, but let's take it one step at a time. Or, for us especially, like I said, let's focus on this side. Now, self-control can mean, okay, not engaging with the senses, or engaging with them in such a way that I will not do this and that is true. But why should we? And are there layers? Well, of course there are. I can tell you, I've been a monk now for 15 years. There are layers to that. So why do we want to keep exploring that subtle, deep truth on higher and higher levels? Well, Master writes in Autobiography of a Yogi that it begins by you working through the senses, not being driven by them, because the senses were given by God. They are windows for love, for seeing, for tasting, enjoying something and appreciating God. Finding, as Dharamdas ji said, God is the most relishable. My friends were asking me in this journey, about different things. And I said, what's behind a form? I said, what are you liking in a person or in a thing? I said, in a person, usually I figured it's a quality. You say, he's so lovable, she's so kind, he's so serviceful, their smile is wonderful, or their demeanor is good. There's something about them. Like, I didn't speak to Auntie, but I said, there's something about her which tells me that we have something in common. And so Swami said, if you're always in the senses and there's no control, he says, you are the loser. You will only take what the senses are reporting, and your ability to see behind the senses or feel behind the senses is lost. And how does the subtle truth express it? It's there. Like we were talking about the fire ceremony. The fire is there. But where is it? And so we need those reminders. We need that convincing. And Krishna is saying, if you conserve that energy, and Master writes in the autobiography, he said, once that energy is conserved, you see, when we are in the senses too much, it's the heart and breath which is a very good reflection of it. And Swami said, when you are able to withdraw the energy from the breath, but in higher states on the heart, Master said, all that energy is released. First, it heals the body. Then he said it is released for higher, deeper spiritual perceptions. It's in the chapter of Kriya Yoga, you'll remember, in Autobiography of a Yogi. And so the truth is there. It is there beyond I asked myself, the truth is there. Are you ready for it? It has been revealed to you. And beyond a point, Swami said, it's not like he asked Master, how does one hear the Om sound? Master's response was, he said, how does it sound? Master said, Om. And Swami said, so how does one hear it, reach that point? Master said, and Swami said, but how does one go deeper? And Master said, that now do it. I've given it to you, now do it. The second thing over there was devotion. I mean, how much one can just keep speaking about devotion, but Swami's beautiful definition of devotion was this constant hunger. He said, you could be living right next door to the world's most famous restaurant, but you won't go in unless you're hungry. So the truth is, let's say right here in this book, right here in the house, right here in this temple, in my meditation room, Master is there. I won't go there, I won't explore that subtle truth unless I'm hungry. And there's again the full spectrum, like it says in the Gita. When we understand life is dual and it starts dawning upon us, then you slowly say, it says the book will come, a teacher will come, then the teachings come, then the guru comes. And that all of that is determined not by some whim of God. It's not random. It is, Swami says, the magnet of your heart, the devotion, the amount of. So again, once we are on the path also, am I still hungry? And it's not just about, of course, seeing the spiritual eye. It's the beginning. It's not about hearing the Om. It's the beginning. Master said you have to become one with those realities. It's not just about, Master says, touching joy and nibbling around it. It is about making that our nature, expressing that through our nature. So that hunger, constant hunger is required, that devotion. The third thing over there was, can I read that for a moment?
Does not wish to know
or eagerness to hear, which of course, let's say I expressed to my friend, said, I've heard that before. No. Let's hear it again. Let's reflect on that. Let's repeat that affirmation again. Let's become, because remember, the teachings have come from somebody who has experienced the truth. Like Master said, I have spiritualized this chant. I have seen it. This chant has given me the result. This affirmation has given me the result. This prayer has borne fruit. Hence, I'm giving it to you. So for us to say, I know this prayer, no. When you know this prayer, you will know that you don't. Like Sri Yukteswarji said, when you're there, I'll let you know. I will not fail to remind you. Till that time, stay with this and explore it. I want to just look at those one or two points over there. The final one, there's service. I remember there's service and
speak ill of one who speaks ill of me.
Yes. Self-controlled, devotion, one who renders no service. Again, need I say about this in Ananda? Swami Master said intense activity and meditation for Swami. And Swami said for most of us it is meditation and service. And why should we serve God? Why did Master use that word? He could have said, when he said, to be in tune with me. And Swami says attunement with the Guru is higher than the technique, anything. He says that's the number one, the highest thing we need. And Master says to be in tune with me, serve my work. Why that emphasis on service? And Swami said, you see, when we firmly come onto the spiritual path. He said most people don't have the challenge of pride too much, you might say, or egotism as he defined it. It's easy to see, or somebody may remind us. He says the challenge then becomes something which is more insidious and difficult, and he called that egoism. That I am separate from you. I am separate from somebody else. I am separate, as Swami said when he saw that dewdrop. He said, I can see it, but I can't feel it. It's there and I'm here. And Swami says that state of separation from people, from things, from God, he says that separation is egoism. And he says, how do you overcome egoism? And Master said, by serving God very intentionally in other people. No, it's not so much about what we are doing, but for whom are we doing and how are we doing? And again, I asked myself, I've been serving, I have a serviceful nature, but I could do it more. I haven't reached the point where the ego has left me, but I could do it. There's always another layer to expand it, and then more joy comes. The sublime truth is revealed a little bit more. And finally, as it says over here, those who care not to hear or who speak ill of me. Well, how can anyone speak ill of God once he or she has experienced God? In the beginning, yes, we can get upset or angry with God or not believe in him. But as Dharamdas ji said, concentration, that was Swamiji's genius. He would take something and just totally give us another view. Concentration is viewed as a mental thing. Concentrate on this. And like, okay, I'm trying. But Swami says, concentration in the Ashtanga Yoga, in the steps of Patanjali, comes as the sixth step. And he said, concentration is something you love something. You want to concentrate. You see a painting. You can't take your eyes off it. You're so engrossed, concentrated. And he said, concentration, as Dharamdas ji was reading, leads to absorption. Absorption is dhyan. Many times in India, dhyan is the word used for concentration. Swami says, no, dhyan is absorption. Your concentration on something attractive, the spiritual eye, joy, love, tuning into others' realities has made you so in love with it that now you absorb. And he says, continuous absorption with grace of God and Gurus leads to the state of Samadhi. So let's keep this in mind that, yes, now isn't it challenging first to tune into those realities for ourselves and then to serve as an instrument, like Master and Swami would say, for God in different individuals, our friends, our family members, complete strangers. Swami used to say, if you're walking on the street, he said, just smile at people. Thank them for what they're wearing. And he said, you will awaken in them. For a moment, they're like, oh, I forgot about this. I was just going through life passively. And Swami says, no, give them a hint. Awaken them to that which is hiding inside them, that divine joy. And he said, you would be doing the highest service that one can do. So in closing, let's keep that in mind. Master brought this teaching for us, of course, qualitatively picking it up from Kriya Yoga, how to ever deepen our understanding, attunement, discipleship with the Masters. But then Master said, I've also come for the world. And that was something. You could be staying with Master and not, or forget about it, or not, like somebody said, frankly speaking, I'm not interested in that side. Swami says, how does it matter, your interest and mine? We finally come to the Guru. Now is finally the time to renounce the likes and dislikes and ego. And still we say, frankly, I'm not interested in that. And Swami said, Master wants these things. Let's get busy doing it for our own sake and for other people.